What is going on, everyone? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. What I'm about to show you is something
Oh my God, bro. Hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
What I'm about to show you is something I actually recorded and edited months ago, and I don't think I was going to post because I was kind of afraid that the topic was a little controversial, and I wasn't really sure how it would impact my online presence or footprint. But I think it's clear that the goal is harm reduction and education, and this is just something that I am interested in and have always found as like a point that needs to be talked about more. I think some of these things are uncomfortable to talk about because they're shameful and they're dangerous, and like I will discuss in this video, they sort of exist in this legal gray market. But I think we only really learn from these things and learn how to avoid the problems that they cause by taking a close look at them. So I think I just want to preface this video to say that I do not condone the use or purchase of any of the things that I talk about in this video. I am actually making this video because I think that there is potential for harm in everything I talk about, and we need to become comfortable talking about this stuff in order to prevent this harm and understand what even causes us to engage with this stuff in the first place. Because whether it exists or not, however available it is, people are like seeking this out for a reason. This is just sort of like one available outlet for it. And also remember that I am just one person who has barely any hands-on experience with a lot of this stuff, and have mostly just been very interested and observant in my surroundings and in online spaces about just sort of hearing stories and staying interested in the legislation around this stuff. So a lot of this is also just my opinion and should not at all be taken as some sort of political knowledge or medical advice. This is just something I find interesting and wanted to talk about it. One more quick preface. I just checked the date on the footage, and this was almost a year to date. This is in April 2025. So this should be treated like a time capsule from that period, because the legislation on a lot of this stuff is constantly changing. Just right now, there's a huge hemp ban occurring, which is totally going to change how all of this like THCA and Delta 8 stuff is handled legally. So just keep in mind, this is a time capsule from April 2025. So a lot of this stuff might not be up to date with reality. Imagine it's 2017, you're walking down the street, or if you live in the suburbs, you're driving down the street. You're passing by a bunch of businesses, maybe some dull-looking apartment buildings, maybe some donut shops, a barber shop, some weird pet service that like you think might be a vet, but it's never really clear exactly what it is. One of these places stands out. It's got like 10 to 20 neon signs in the window, several tobacco brands, a few vape products, maybe a Red Bull or Monster logo, and pretty much everything else that your parents like kind of warned you about when you were a kid. It's a smoke shop, or if you're old, a head shop. All the possibilities start going through your head. You know, maybe you get some snacks for like a weirdly low price. Maybe a soda or an energy drink. Maybe, if you're a disgusting little fiend, you get your favorite brand of cigarette. Smoke shops have always fascinated me because it feels like this secret, like half sketchy, actually super friendly after you walk in place where communities shove all their illicit and like illicit adjacent products. Like, they're called smoke shops, but they're really so much more than that, aren't they? I'm going to go over some of the things you can find in a place like this, and then move to the more mysterious aspects and products that you can find after walking into a smoke shop. First of all, you have snacks, you know, maybe a few coolers with drinks, maybe even some freezer food. The non-illicit part of each smoke shop is different. Sometimes there's just a Red Bull fridge and like a soda fridge. Sometimes these places just like double as a convenience store and have a much wider variety. I know in New York City, the concept of like a deli or a bodega makes everything I'm going to say kind of irrelevant. I grew up in Chicago and now I live in Milwaukee. So everything I say might be more accurate for just the Midwest. I think these things differ based on how densely populated your area is, and whether it's urban, suburban, or rural, and honestly, like how legal weed is in the place you are. But we'll touch on that a little later. Also, I just want to say, if it looks like I'm reading a fucking teleprompter, it's because I've filmed this video multiple times already, but I ramble on so much, I realized the only way to do this and actually get my message across is to just write it before and read it so it's more cohesive. After you get past all the basic snacks and drink that you could find in a gas station or any 7-Eleven, let's move on to what the shops are mainly named after: smoke. First, you've got a wide array of tobacco products. Nowadays, I feel like these places have like such a large emphasis on vape products. You'll usually see a huge rainbow wall full of every disposable you can name, and separating you and the clerk is usually like a bunch of glass display cases that are full of vape devices for those who are no longer lying to themselves about being addicted to nicotine and have now gotten a refillable device to save money. There's also nicotine pouches like Zyns and a few other brands that are somewhere in the mix. And finally, you have cigarettes. Cigs are found in most smoke shops, but I've been to some who only sell vapes as far as tobacco products go. Personally, I think it's a spit in the face to cigarettes to have a smoke shop not sell them. But I think that's due to my own personal disillusionment with vapes. While we're on the topic of tobacco, I want to go on a little rant. I want to preface this by saying I do not recommend anyone try any tobacco products. Seriously, it is like the dumbest thing you can do. You're essentially putting poison in your body that is extremely addictive and like barely getting anything out of it. Nicotine is a fucking prank on the human population because it is so addictive and genuinely doesn't even feel good. You essentially become addicted to giving yourself like a slight headache and maybe like a fucking tummy ache or something. The reason it pisses me off when smoke shops sell every fucking rainbow flavor of vapes but don't have cigarettes is because cigarettes at least it like feels a little more honest to me. I know decades ago people didn't know cigs were bad for them, but now it's just common knowledge, and they don't like smell nice. Like you actually have to burn it. You have to burn it with fire, so you're more aware of the fact that like you're doing something kind of dangerous and unhealthy. While vapes are just like they seem more misleading to me. You're still putting mystery chemicals in your lungs. You're still getting addicted to nicotine. When a shop exclusively sell vapes, it just seems like they think they're above selling harmful products, while they sell harmful products that are just like more misleading about the fact that they're harmful. And it kind of feels like they're just trying to sell to kids who are scared of cigs. I just fucking hate vapes. I think it makes it easier to become addicted to nicotine while pretending to be some sort of safer alternative. I honestly think it's made the problem so much worse. I think like my generation was this close to making cigarettes just kind of like this like occasional thing or like this fringe thing that only some people do. And vapes just like they're just like, oh no, nicotine addiction is still just as big, if not bigger of a thing than it always has been. And maybe I'm wrong, you know, maybe I'm completely wrong. I didn't grow up in the fucking 80s. Like I know people were smoking all the time. Like maybe it was a lot worse back then, but I feel like everyone's just vaping all the time now. So like what the fuck is the difference? It's the same thing repackaged and filled with a new cocktail of chemicals, but this time they figured out how to trick people even better. The amount of people I have met who guzzle vapes all fucking day and then judge people for smoking cigarettes is ridiculous. You're being silly. This is my nicotine rant. Let's move on. Where were we? Yes, smoke. Along with tobacco, these shops have a variety of products that are meant for smoking tobacco, or at least that's what they used to say. This includes one-hitters, bongs, pipes, rolling papers, blunts and blunt wraps, hemp wraps, grinders, rolling trays, and a bunch of other shit. Oh, and hookah products. I completely forgot about hookah products, but I literally have no knowledge on that, and just not the right person to talk about it. But smoke shops usually have hookah products as well. So these smoking materials. This is where we get a bit more in the illicit than just snacks and vapes, you know? The first time I ever walked into a smoke shop, I was surprised the feds weren't just busting through the door based on everything I knew. I thought since the place has a bunch of products for smoking weed, this had to be like illegal or something. Or I always thought that like, all right, like if it's illegal to smoke weed, just like the cops just wait outside a smoke shop, and anyone that buys something for smoking weed, it's like that person's smoking weed, you know? I thought it was just like, how the fuck is this not being cracked down on, was my thought, essentially. I think this feeling of like half legality makes these the perfect places to sell the products that made me want to make this video in the first place. I think these shops create sort of a gray market where some things are not explicitly illegal, but they're only legal because there's a lack of regulation around that, or some sort of like loophole that the shop owners exploit. So it's like, it's not illegal, but the only reason it's not illegal is because there's no laws around it, not because there is a law saying that you can. I've been to a few smoke shops where they won't let you say the word bong. It's a water pipe. Because they're afraid that if they call their product bongs, which is associated with weed, then they'll be breaking the law. But as far as the smoke shop knows, you're just smoking tobacco out of that thing. So they're not doing anything illegal or helping you do anything illegal. This lets the consumer know this is a place where not all the rules apply. This is a sort of in-between place. It's not as legal as 7-Eleven or a regular liquor store, but it's not as illegal as going to your drug dealer. Before we move on to the legal drugs sold here, let's make some honorable mentions. Piss. Some of these places will sell fake piss under the guise of fetish pee. Obviously, there are people who buy this for fetish reasons, but I think the main reason this stuff is sold is to help people pass drug tests. If their piss is full of THC or other drugs that companies might not want that are in their employees' bodies, again, the smoke shop isn't breaking the law. They're selling what is essentially just like a really taboo sex toy, but I feel like most real fetishists are just going to go to a sex shop for like a judgment-free space. The people buying fake piss at a smoke shop are mostly just stoners trying to pass a drug test. They aren't breaking the law, but they might help you like break the law or bypass some rules a little bit. Again, I have to say I do not recommend using fake piss to pass a drug test. It usually doesn't work for as far as like people have told me, because drug tests are really hard to dupe, especially if you're an athlete and like the coach is gonna send like a fucking nurse in there to watch you piss. Just take a few weeks off, or like don't become a forklift operator if you like struggle with being sober. Now we can move on to the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place. Smoke shop drugs. The reason I started this video by making you imagine it's 2017 is because in 2018, the US government passed something called the Farm Bill. There are a lot of videos out there about the Farm Bill, so I'll try to keep this short. The Farm Bill legalized hemp as long as it has less than 0.3% of Delta-9 THC. This is the specific chemical in weed that gets you high, or at least does like most of the getting you high. But the plant contains over 100 known cannabinoids, and this bill made it so that weed is only illegal if it has 0.3% of one of those cannabinoids, or over 0.3%, I should say. The first products that popped out were Delta-8 products. Delta-8 is another one of these cannabinoids that shows up in hemp in like very small amounts, but people figured out a way to synthesize it, like make it themselves and put it into products like vapes and edibles. So like Delta-8, the way I understand it is Delta-8 is found in weed, but when you're buying like a Delta-8 cart or a Delta-8 gummy, like that is like synthetically made Delta-8 that they made a bunch of, more than you would find in like an actual nug. There's also Delta-8 flower, like actual buds. Zero clue what the fuck that is. I will not pretend to understand it. I do not trust it, because if there's like a synthetic process with it, and there's bud, that just makes me think of K2, and that scares the shit out of me. Later, other alternative cannabinoid products started showing up, like HHC, THCP, THCV, Delta-10, Delta-0, and finally one stuck, THCA. This should change the entire legal and illegal weed market, and like this gray market that we're talking about right now. Or at least it seems like it did. The way I understand it, THCA does not need to be synthesized. It's just regular weed, but you cure it a little different so the lab results don't find Delta-9 THC in it. But if you wait a few days or apply heat, the THCA converts to Delta-9 THC, so it's just regular weed. So it's just regular weed being tested and sold using a technicality. From what I know, THCA is not any more dangerous than regular old weed. But the problem is that there's no regulations around it because it's just a hemp product. So companies can just say it's THCA but be selling you whatever the fuck they want because it's not as strictly regulated as the stuff sold in dispensaries. And dispos are selling THCA too, but they have like different regulations, so that also just opens up a whole new can of worms, which I'll have to save for another video. Right now we're focused on the gray market, not the actual like legal dispensary market. Cheers. So now most smoke shops are filled with these like mysterious weed products, making some of them indistinguishable from a dispensary. I think it's good to have legal weed, but I don't think this is the way to do it. It literally just allows and like essentially encourages companies to be sketchy with their marketing and like their manufacturing process, because they can sell whatever the fuck they want as long as they like log it or make sure that it tests for having less than 0.3% of Delta-9 THC. How is it better to not have like regular weed, but instead you just have like 75 different mystery weeds or like weed products available at every corner store and even online, available to be sold to anyone at any age, because there's no regulation as long as it has less than 0.3% of delta 9 THC. Like it essentially is like how drug dealers will make analogs of things like Molly and acid. Like they'll just like slightly change the chemical makeup of a drug, and like now it has pretty much the same effects, but now it's just like slightly different, and there's no laws about it yet, so like you can sell it with like less legal risk. But instead of the drug dealer, it's at like the gas station. Most companies have made it at least like an 18 and up product because they're, I don't know, not complete scumbags, or like it probably helps their marketing that like you have to be a certain age to buy it, because then people know that it like is supposed to get you high. But let's not act like it's impossible for like high schoolers to get around that shit. I mean, like alcohol's 21 and up, and have you waited until you were 21 to drink? I don't think the hemp industry is the first time that smoke shops have had this sort of like gray drug market appear on their shelves. This is definitely the biggest and most mainstream explosion of products like this, like probably because it's like just weed and like it's already become a little bit more socially acceptable, and like in places where weed is illegal, people are just fucking tired of it, so it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna buy weed from the smoke shop. But other drugs have held the place of the half legal smoke shop drugs before. I'm going to talk about the few that I have learned about online, because most of the stuff was way before I was in college or like had any friends who were interested in this stuff. So, all right, all the drugs I'm going to talk to in a rough order are salvia, K2 or spray, kratom, whippets. After that we have hemp, which is like what we just talked about, and finally 7-0. First up, salvia. Salvia is a crazy one. I only know about this because there's plenty of videos of online of people telling stories about like being dumb teenagers trying to experiment with anything they can get their hands on, and salvia just happened to be the easiest one to get at a smoke shop, which is fucking crazy because it is a very intense hallucinogen that lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, but those 10 to 15 minutes are fucking nuts. I've heard everything from like basic hallucinogenic and dissociative properties to full on like visions, including like living in alternate timelines for like months at a time. And there's one story I heard where someone thought they were on fire, so they took their shirt off and started rolling around on the floor. This is a crazy one. Hearing stories about this definitely made me realize drug laws in America are kind of a joke, because it's illegal to get weed, and you need to be 21 with an ID to buy beer or cigs. But like smoke shops just casually sell one of the most intense experiences known to man. Next we have synthetic weed, aka K2, aka spray. I've also heard Scooby Snacks a lot for this one, but I think that was just like one of the most popular brands of this going around, essentially, like brands. This was on the black market as well, but apparently you could find it in smoke shops back then as well. I remember learning about this one on some documentary I saw as a teenager that showed like a dealer making this stuff, talking about what it is. What I remember from that is like it's essentially random herbs that like kind of look like weed, maybe, that you buy in bulk, because obviously, you know, that's cheaper than buying real weed. Like it could be some fucking random tea, you know, and then you would like spray with an actual spray bottle synthetic chemicals onto it that would give people like weird highs. I guess it was meant to resemble a weed high, but it was probably a lot more uncomfortable if I were to guess. This shit was super dangerous because if too many chemicals were sprayed onto it, it could lead to like a serious health complication or even death. It was hard to say though, because stuff like this is not always reported on too well. Like it could get like, you know, it's just like not the cause of death isn't reported, or like they were doing other drugs with it. It's like, who knows? This is a good time to mention that there's like hundreds, if not thousands, of synthetic drugs that are meant to mimic already illegal drugs because they're cheaper and like less legally risky to sell. This is something we touched on briefly before. If you change the chemical makeup of a drug that's illegal, like MDMA or LSD, you like add a fucking oxygen or hydrogen atom, it's technically a different chemical makeup, making it a different drug, making it now not illegal. These things are mostly sold on the street, but if you find the right or wrong smoke shop, you can probably find similar stuff as well. Synthetic weed like K2 is probably not the same thing, rather just like whatever chemical cocktail your local dealer decided to use for that batch. It wasn't all like cohesive, like not all. I doubt all K2 felt the same. This stuff was really bad news and has probably claimed a number of lives over the years. Next we have Kratom. This you can probably still find in smoke shops, but as far as I can tell, it has gotten a lot less popular since the hemp market blew up. Kratom, it just had like a couple years in there where like the hemp thing wasn't really a thing anymore, but like nothing else was being sold in smoke shops. So it's a plant that gives you like opiate-like effects. I know there's risks for addiction, and it can apparently like fuck with your hormones and brain chemistry, but I haven't heard of it killing people or anything. I bet there are people who abuse it, but for the most part, I've heard this stuff is used by opiate addicts to like wean themselves off of more dangerous drugs, or people with chronic pain who like don't want to do prescription opiates. Because as far as I know, like this, it's not as like intense as like taking perks or drinking lean or something. But it kind of like works on your opiate receptors, so it's got like some of the same benefits and risks. I think it's one of those things that has legitimate uses, but like is also not very well regulated. So there's no telling if the stuff you found in your local corner store is like any good. A lot of it might not be like real kratom, or might have like some other shit in it. Yeah, and I'm not the person to tell you how to discern from that, because I don't know anything about kratom. Plus, it's essentially like a light opiate, so I would talk to your doctor about your chronic pain. Any opiate or sedative drugs, especially for people with addictive personalities or like deeper problems that they're dealing with, I think could just be a slippery slope into stronger opiates like pills or heroin, because like they provide a similar kind of relief, and eventually like if you keep using it just for relief, eventually it's not going to be enough and you're going to look for something more. All right, whippets. Whippets are something that have been around for a while and is still around. It's just nitrous oxide. They give this shit to you at the dentist, and it also like powers whipped cream canisters. It's a very short-acting disassociative. From what I understand, it's not horrible for you, but can be dangerous based on like your individual brain chemistry. Like there's so much like mixed information out there. Like I've heard that like it's not bad, but for some people it could just fucking kill them. This is what I understand is like the real danger, like guaranteed danger, is getting addicted to it, because when you get addicted to it, people start like holding their breath in between whippets in order to like make them hit harder, and holding your breath cuts off oxygen to your brain, and that results in killing your brain cells. Recently, this product called Galaxy Gas popped up on the shelves, which is like flavored whippets ready to go. You used to have to buy the whipped cream or the fucking nitrous, what are they called? The canisters? I don't fucking know. Canister and like the things, the actual nitrous. But now like you just like, and you would have to load up each one between taking them. But now they just have like a whole thing that you can just like essentially rip like a giant vape. But I heard it also just they just discontinued sales or like manufacturing. Galaxy Gas is bad because like not only are you doing something that could mess up your brain, like the nitrous, but it also like includes flavored chemicals in it, which you're probably also not supposed to inhale. Don't do Galaxy Gas. It's like, I think Galaxy Gas is like how vaping is to cigarettes, Galaxy Gas is to whippets. Like, it was bad for you to begin with, but now they made it tutti frutti flavored and easier to use. So you're just like, I don't know, like they made it more friendly, but in reality more sinister. Friendly meaning like friendly in appearance, not friendly to your body. So it's like more misleading, but also more dangerous. It's kind of fucked. Now we have the hemp market. Which I've already talked about quite a bit. If you want to hear about it again, just fucking rewind the video, I guess. And last, and possibly the most dangerous thing on this list, which I've only heard about in the past couple months. I haven't even seen it in any smoke shops here in the Midwest. I drove to like 5 in one day just for like research of this video, and I didn't find this stuff. I found pretty much everything else that I talked about in this video, except for like K2 and salvia. 7-0. Or 7-hydroxymitragynine. This is essentially a fake opiate. that is okay. So like 7-hydroxymitragynine is found in kratom, just like delta 8 is found in cannabis. But they like synthesize just that part and sell it in much larger doses than would ever be found in kratom. Does that make sense? So it's like it exists naturally, but not in the way that it's being sold. Like it doesn't exist on its own. It exists in tiny amounts, like in like trace amounts in kratom. But it just straight up works on your opiate receptors. Like it's just a fake opiate. This stuff is being sold as vapes and pills and is marketed either as like fake perks or even like fake quaaludes. This shit is really disappointing, especially because it's being marketed to pretty much kids and people who don't know any better, and might ruin the reputation of kratom, which is a substance that for the most part is like helping people who are struggling with stuff like chronic pain and addiction. This stuff is highly addictive, which is rarely, if ever, mentioned by these companies on the packaging or in their marketing or online, and can lead to like some fucked up withdrawal symptoms if you try to quit. I wanted to bring attention to this because it's terrifying and it's a brand new one. It looks like it hasn't made it to my area yet, at least not on a large enough scale. But the YouTuber Goblin has made a couple videos exposing this industry, so I encourage you to check that out if you're curious, or even if you go to smoke shops or have friends who like smoke weed and are interested in illicit substances, because like this shit is fucked up. Like I think a lot of people end up going to a smoke shop and like just trying shit out because it gives a sense of security that there is like someone to hold accountable. Like this is a brick and mortar store that you can like that's selling you this product. So like people feel less inclined to do research. Like doing something from the smoke shop always feels safer than like doing some shit you get from like just straight up an illegal drug dealer, because like it seems like more out in the open and more permissible, but it may not always be the case. Like this stuff is more dangerous than a lot of the stuff your local plug probably has. And I think it is important for people to know this. There's a lot of bunk ass shit already out there. Just be safe and don't fucking take something you don't know anything about. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if there's any parts of the video that you'd like me to expand on in future videos. You know, this is something I'm pretty interested in. Or let me know if there's anything else that you think I should talk about. Or let me know if you thought I was fucking wrong about something, because, you know, I very well could be, and I think the discussions should continue in the comments for this to actually be as informative as possible for all of us. Thank you, and see you in the next one.